Bong, SQR Podcast, Go Rosenberg. My guest tonight, Nyugen Smith, walking in. I love the swagger, my dude. Amazing. Thank you so much for slicing out this hour out of your day to be with us. Sak passe, my dude. Bong. Yo, have this wonderful seat, man. SQR Podcast, Go Rosenberg. My guest, Nyugen Smith, who is a
interdisciplinary artist.
Yeah, you just ask yourself what that is. We're going to find out tonight. My guest, Nyugen Smith. He's up next. Stay tuned. One. SQR Podcast, Go Rosenberg, cracking in. As I said before, tonight we are in for, I always tell everybody it's a treat, but tonight's a little bit different because we're going to be educated on the interdisciplinary skills of the artist that's sitting in front of me right now.
Yeah.
And as I get ready to dissect your life, there's a format I follow every time I crack open a show. First and foremost, big up everybody who checked us out on the last show that we uploaded. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking. And we'd love to interact with our guests. So you can check out everything that you saw on the podcast. It's available on our YouTube channel, Instagram. You can catch our stuff on Instagram TV. We are moving out here. However, as I crack into the show, I want to take this moment to big up everybody that's in the house tonight. Of course, my senior editor, Manny, thank you so much for holding the fort down. Bong, 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 bong. I want to take this moment to big up the senior director, of course, Charles, extraordinaire. Thank you so much for dedicating the time to this whole movement. And of course, the executive producer and, director of lighting and a whole bunch of other accolades. My boy, Lou Amano. Thank you so much, sir, for dedicating the time and making sure this movement is what it is. I always take this moment to big up the Peanut Gallery. I love when people in the house are able to check out the show.
True.
So right now I wanted to give a big shout out to my boy Omar. Thank you so much for coming in. A former guest on the show, Bong Bong Bong. Thank you for slicing in. Of course, Dana and her wonderful friend. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I forgot her name, but big you up so much. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate that. Big up. And now we're here at the meal. Nyugen Smith.
Yes, sir.
Interdisciplinary artist.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming through, bro. Bong, bong, bong. It's so amazing because when I say your accolades, it's almost like prime minister of a small country in the Caribbean. You know what I mean? which is you're the hybrid of two of those countries. Which is you told me in the pre-production, Haiti and Trinidad. But before we slice into that, could you share with people how they could get in touch with you, where they could find you, and your handle?
Absolutely. So you can find me on my website, NyugenSmith.com. That's NYUGEN Smith.com. Also on Instagram at Bundlehouse, BUNDLEHOUSE, and Nyugen Smith on Facebook as well.
Nice. Nyugen.
Yeah.
That's gotta be one of the most unique name I've heard.
Yeah.
And let me take this moment right now to big up the Patterson Police Department. You can always consistently bet on that ambient noise. No, we really want to remind people where we are. You know what I mean?
True.
To all the officers out there, have a safe night tonight. So as I get ready to dissect your life, the mantra of the show is to educate, entertain, and encourage. Mm-hmm. And I want to do that by taking you through the journey from birth to right now. Mm-hmm. Why are you such a prolific artist in this genre that you've created? So let's go back to the beginning. Nyugen.
Yeah.
What's up with that name?
So my parents wanted something different. And when my mom was pregnant with me, there was a woman that used to come help out at the house, and she is Vietnamese. And my name comes from the traditional Vietnamese last name, which is Nguyen, but it's spelled a little bit differently. The Y and the G are switched in my name. So my name is spelled Nyugen, but the Vietnamese last name is Nguyen. Now, there's a couple different stories of how I got the name, but I'll stick with that one.
Oh, no, that's big. That's big.
Yeah.
Let's go back to, as you were describing mom and the family makeup.
Yeah.
Initially, where's mom and dad from?
Yeah, so mom is from Trinidad and Tobago, primarily Trinidad, and my dad is from Haiti.
Land of the roti, Meeks, the king of the sock passe, huh?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Where?
So they met in Jersey City. Yeah.
That's even more interesting.
Yeah.
So knowing this, let me just try to precursor this. Mom's from Trinidad.
Yep.
Dad's from Haiti.
Yep.
Who smitten who? Now that you can look back, like who stood a chance or who didn't stand a chance when they first met?
That's a good question.
Was dad like so swaggerific, or did mom had the whole carnival vibe down so dad stood no chance?
Well, when I look back at photos, definitely my mom was, she was always styling. So I'm I know why my dad was actually smitten by her. And I don't know what it was I never heard the story. They never told me the story.
Okay.
But my mom was fly. My dad was a handsome young man. So so I guess that's why they got together.
What's the family makeup like?
So it's one brother. I have one brother, younger brother, Nyugen Smith.
Okay.
He's a super producer. Gotta throw that out there. But I'll tell you why later on why I have to big that up. Right?
Well, what's so funny is I was so excited to crack into your story, and I my sponsor would be amiss that I started this conversation without not offering you a handsome green bottle from a refrigerator.
Right on.
So I'm gonna ask that you turn around and grab a Heineken. Of course, we have the new 00s, which is no alcohol up front, but I know you prefer the real Heineken, authentically brewed and always perfect quality. Let me open that for you.
Thank you, sir.
And apologize for taking so long to do this. So let's do a big toast to
sir.
you, your presence, and your story.
Give thanks.
Man, best beer ever brewed. SQR Podcast, Scott Rosenberg. Here we drink responsibly as we dissect lives and story and have a conversation over some fresh cold Heinekens. So, you're the oldest.
I'm the older.
Younger brother.
Yep.
Mom and dad.
Yep.
Caribbean energy.
Yep.
Growing up in Jersey City.
Yeah.
I pretty much know what your school life and your church life was. Well, it just goes with it anyway because I'm from a Caribbean blood, so I know what that's like. So talk to me. What was growing up in that neighborhood like?
So, the earliest part of my childhood, growing up in Jersey City, I probably have one memory, and I was getting stuck in the elevator. And then my next memories.
Slow up. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got to go back and elaborate a little bit on that.
So, my dad, he's still affiliated with the Salvation Army right now, and he was managing a building for the Salvation Army in Jersey City. So they were the only people living in this building.
What age was this?
So this was I was born 1976.
Okay.
So they were in this building for, I don't know, maybe like 5 to 8 years, something like that.
Okay.
So we were the only ones living in this building. I somehow got out of the apartment and went into the elevator and pushed some button. And the next thing I know, I'm stuck in the elevator and I'm just hearing the banging of my dad trying to open up the elevator. So that's the only memory that I have of being like a really young child in Jersey City. And then my next memories is primarily from when I was growing up in Trinidad. So we moved to Trinidad, my brother and I, and lived with my grandmother, 2 uncles, and an aunt in Trinidad.
Okay.
And then, so that's like, those are my formative years until 8 years old, and then moved back to Jersey City.
All right. You know what? The formative years are very, very important, especially now where we can look back retrospectively.
Yeah.
And I want to dissect those years.
Yep.
All right. So let's just slow this down. You're growing up in the household, your brother, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Pia roti and all the Caribbean food that you can ever think of.
That's right. Yeah.
Although you're living in Jersey City, the Caribbean influence is big.
Yep.
Going to school. You went to school in Jersey City for a little bit, no?
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you assimilate well? Did you have friends? Were you ostracized?
No, it was tough. It was tough at first when we came back from Trinidad. So
No, don't get me back from before you went to Trinidad.
I don't remember.
Okay, respect that.
I probably was like maybe 4 years old when I moved to Trinidad.
Okay, done.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. The move to Trinidad from Jersey City. Do you remember that transition? That
No.
Okay, do you remember why?
I learned why.
Talk to me.
So my parents got divorced. And it's like that kind of like struggle between the parents and the children. So that's how my brother and I ended up in Trinidad.
And you stayed with mom's parents or dad's parents?
Mom's parents.
Okay.
Yeah, mom's mother and her brother, 2 of her brothers and one of her sisters.
So let me show you my hand. This is like playing cards. Let me be honest with you. The reason why I'm being so macro and slow is when you leave the United States and go to a Caribbean country, there's a whole different adjustment that experience from somebody who leaves the Caribbean and come to the United States.
Yeah.
So let's dissect that.
Yeah.
You land in Trinidad. How old are you at that time?
I probably was about 4.
Okay, so you don't remember too much.
Nah.
What do you remember about that time?
I remember the freedom in terms of just like being outside,
Space.
climbing trees, like you know, growing up in the house where you have I don't know, it was like my uncle, he was Uncle Sheldon. He was 10 years old. He's 10 years older than me. So he was more of an older brother than an uncle. And I wanted to follow him, do everything that he was doing. So he was like a really studious person, always studying. So it was like when he had his books out, I wanted to have my books out.
That's so interesting.
You know? And he also he can draw really well. So I remember the first day I was doing these drawings of these little stick figures, and I did like this whole fighting scene with all these stick figures all over the page, just like, you know, punching and kicking and stuff. And I was happy about this drawing, so I brought it to him while he was doing his homework, and he looked at it and he was like, "What is that?"
It's so Caribbean.
and it was like it crushed me at first because I spent so much time drawing this thing. So he said, "Hold on," and he drew a man in profile, just standing up, simple figure, and he said, "Go draw this." And I went back and I sat down and I was like copying it, like, you know, had it on one side and I'm drawing it here. By the time I brought it back to him, he drew a whole party scene, all these people dancing and all this kind of stuff. So it was like he looked at it, he gave me a little feedback, and I just kept practicing that same figure over and over and over until I was able to start to do different things, like make the figure, instead of looking straight ahead, the figure was looking at you now. Right, the figure had the arms moving, the figure had the legs moving. So that's how I got to start to actually like get into art, start to make
you know what's so funny about that whole journey? What I got from that is you dropped a jewel. And when you say something profound on the show, we call it dropping a jewel. And the jewel you dropped was when he gave you that corrected drawing, you went back and you practiced, and you practiced, and you practiced. SQR Podcast, Score Rosenberg, my boy Nyugen Smith. Already out the bat, it's a jewel-filled podcast. Thank you for being macro. We're going to take this break, come back, crack at a slice too, and find out what are the catalysts that got him where he is right now. Stay tuned. SQR Podcast, Nyugen Smith. 1. Bong, SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, slicing in on this second segment of this interesting powwow. That's really what I want to call this, you know, because as I dissect your life and I'm realizing, wow, here's a guy who's born in the U.S., Caribbean parents, they divorce, you go back to Trinidad, and now you're assimilating to the Caribbean lifestyle.
Yeah.
Did you go to school in Trinidad?
Yep.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
This is going to get interesting.
Yeah.
So we spoke about Uncle Sheldon.
Yeah.
And the influence. Does he know the influence he had on your life?
Yeah, I think so.
You told him?
I think so. Yeah, there was a time where I reached out to him and just told him how significant he was in terms of me becoming an artist. Yeah.
Okay, got you. So can I ask you, what's your typical Sunday morning growing up in Trinidad with grandma?
You probably already know this. So Sunday was you get up, you have your breakfast, you know, tea, piece of bread, some cheese, you know, eggs maybe, porridge, and then it was always about the preparation for church. So grandmom would start cooking lunch like right after breakfast was done. We had some time to just kind of play or whatever, my brother and I, and then it was take out your Sunday school clothes, polish your shoes, put the shoes on the windowsill to dry so the sun can shine it more. Then we would bathe, put on your little vest, your powder, right? And then you would have your lunch, and then you take a little nap, and then you get up, get dressed, and go to Sunday school. And then we come back, right? So sometimes we would also then go to church with my grandmother, who went to church in the afternoon.
Okay.
But most of the time it was just my brother and I going to Sunday school and then coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
The interaction with mom and dad during that time while you're in Trinidad, how did that happen?
So mom and dad both were still in the U.S. So my mom was, trying to get herself back on her feet. My dad was doing the same. And so it was like, we were just there in Trinidad. And
the reason why I went back a little bit and danced around is, did you not miss having the mom or dad there, or it was just grandma such a home run that it didn't bother you?
Yeah, it was really like the family that was in that house, like that's what I knew as my family. Until I remember I came to an age where I think my mom had come down for a vacation. She came down for a carnival. And when she came down and when she went back, that's when I started to feel like I want to go there. I want to come to the US to be with her. So before that, it was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But every time the airplane would pass by, I know my younger brother would always say, Mom, like, point to the plane and say, Mom.
Wow.
Yeah. But that family in Trinidad was like, that was the only family that I really knew.
So going to school, what was that like?
Yeah. School was pretty close. So walk to school. So imagine
children accepted you, or
in Trinidad?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was one of them. I spoke like them. I looked like them. So the funny thing was, what made me really think about being American was that there was a boy that came from the U.S. and he had his American accent. He had his American sneakers on.
They usually do.
He had his swag,
Yeah, they usually do.
Yeah, so everybody's looking at him like he's the big deal because he comes from America. And he was fast. He could run fast, So when he came and he was telling everybody's like, oh, he's from America, he's from America. And I was like, oh, I'm from America too. But they're looking at me like, nah. So that was one of those moments too, when it was like that, the first instance of that kind of double consciousness, of being from there but not really being from there but not really being from there. And I think that was the first moment in my life where I had that experience.
Wow, that's interesting, because being an authentic Jamaican, and growing up and going to school in Jamaica, I remember those kids that would fly in and look fresh and all the. You're right. I could relate 100% to that.
Yeah.
Funny that you were that kid who wasn't seen that way. You know? I want to find out if you can look back now that you're a little bit ahead of the game, and look back. Some of the qualities that you picked up from Trinidad. If you could name 2 qualities that you picked up during that time, being away from mom, being around this loving family, everything about it that you think has fueled you to make you who you are right now.
One is discipline. The discipline was one first and foremost in the house, like discipline. And then the other thing is to work hard. Whatever you want, you gotta buckle down and focus in on it and do it in order to accomplish anything.
Another jewel.
Yeah.
What was grandma's name?
Elaine.
Can we big her up?
Is she still alive?
Let's big up Elaine.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
Let's big up Elaine.
Yeah.
How did your younger brother, deal with the assimilation? And mom not being there and dad not physically being there. Has he told you how it affected him, or did it not affect him? Because you said you were cushed with all the love and support you had.
Yeah.
What about him?
I think the same for him. Because he's 2 years younger than me, so he was like, I think probably like 2 when he went to Trinidad. So it's like the only thing he knew,
It was, as long as you were there, it was some consistency.
Yep.
the artistic lane that you're now in, I want to go back and find out the inertia that created that movement.
Yeah.
Can you remember?
Yeah, a few different things. One is growing up in the Caribbean. I would speak for my family in a sense. Everything around me was pretty much hand built. So my grandfather was a cabinet maker, and he had built some of the furniture that was in the house, that in the bed that we slept on. He had built the headboard and that kind of thing. People would build the chicken coop outside, and they would build that from found materials. So there's just salvage things in order to build the fowl coop. So all of this kind of the handmade, the things that were created out of things that was found around in the environment. So that kind of visual aesthetic and that visual language was something that kind of was ingrained in me. So as I started to make art, it was like a natural move towards these materials, because I had grown up with that in my subconscious, and conscious.
And I know you can relate on this. You're from a stereotypical Caribbean understanding our household, with the grandma being, and it's hard for that generation to understand. I'm going to make money via art. You know what I mean? So, was your concept of surviving or doing art, was it always accepted by them, or were they like, go get a real job?
My mom, because when I didn't really decide that I wanted to be an artist until I was in college, my second year in college.
So you know what? Let's not even get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Come back.
Cool.
And I want to I want to go back to before you left Trinidad. Why you left Trinidad. And then transition, because where did you go to high school? Here.
I went to high school in the U.S.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that and know. Maybe maybe now you're the superstar when you landed back here with the Trinidad. Don't say it yet. SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, Nyugen Smith, my guest for tonight, who's slicing his entire life up to tell us where he is and how he's doing it right now. Stay tuned.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, I come to you straight. With physical and emotional difficulty, I have left my bleeding country to be with you here today. Because these are the moments for which the United Nations exists. So I am done with being polite. I'm done with being politically correct. And I am mad as hell because my
SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, cracking in with my boy. Let me fix that. Let me fix that. I'm going to address that right now, actually.
Yeah.
So as we were talking behind the scenes, I said my boy, and you mentioned that we should be very careful of the colonialism and the ability to adjust some of the slangs that we use.
Yeah.
And as I say my boy, and I say my boy with love and my brother and you corrected me by saying.
Yeah, so in thinking about language and in thinking about the way that we decolonize our minds, thinking about the way that we address each other. So for instance, man to man, if I refer to you as boy, right, I feel like in thinking about the way that slavery and colonialism has happened is like where a black man was called boy by the white master. Right, you were never a man in their eyes, right?
Okay.
Much less human, not human in their eyes, but much less not a man, right?
Yeah,
so
correct.
often called a boy. So in thinking about language and how we refer to each other, I just wanted to address that in the sense that let's not call each other boy, right? So my brother, my man, my friend, brethren, we can use those, but boy, I would let's
Let me
move away from that.
salute you for that correction.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, big. Not only did I appreciate the correction and saw the value behind that, going forward, I'm going to consciously make sure I address my fellow man accordingly. So, SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, this is a redo. I'm sitting here with my man, Nyugen Smith. And I enjoy your detailed walk. And we kind of jumped around a little bit, but let's just slow this down as we get into the entree here.
Yeah.
And the reason why I call this the entree is because I realized that you went to a little bit of school in Trinidad.
Yep.
And the formative years,
Mm-hmm.
which are coming up, which is the high school and the college. Let's talk about that. Let's dissect that for a little bit. And I want to find out about the arts and where that came in, and the type of artist that you are. So let's do this. Finishing up in Trinidad, what was the catalyst to get you back to the U.S.?
So mom she had a pretty good job at the bank. She was financially in a position where she could take my brother and I back up, and be able to put us in a good school in Jersey City, private school. So it was, that was the start. So
Do you remember the day you left Trinidad?
I remember the day. Yeah, like anxious to come up to the United States, but when the time came, it became real, and I remember grabbing onto every single thing in the airport that I could, to not leave, just hold on to everything. Yeah, because literally I was being stripped from the people I knew as my family. So that was the toughest thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was your brother's reaction? Do you remember?
I don't remember his. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Leaving Trinidad that day.
Yep.
Flying into JFK.
Yep. I think it was JFK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You landed?
I landed in America.
Do you remember that day?
I remember it. I remember the smell. As soon as we landed, to this day, there are some days where I go outside and there's that same smell in the air that brings me back to landing and coming off that airplane that night. And then I remember coming through the Holland Tunnel. So those are the things that I remember, exactly.
The emotions, excited,
Yeah.
anticipating,
Yeah.
missing Trinidad, or
Yeah, immediately. Yeah, and it was interesting because I was watching your interview with the brother Red Fox.
Yes.
And he was talking about when he came from Jamaica after coming from having all that space, and he came to this apartment where he's in this 2-bedroom apartment.
You did.
And so I also felt the same thing. It was like we were in an apartment. It was kind of spacious, but it was still this box, and living on top of people. Like, we weren't living like that. So that was an adjustment too.
Wow. So now you're back in Jersey.
Yeah.
Mom's got everything on lock.
Mm-hmm.
She got you into school. What was the whole school energy like?
Yeah.
Were you the man because you're from the Caribbean and you had the accent?
No. At that time, it was like, if you weren't American, especially as kids, because kids, I say sometimes kids could be really, really cruel. So just having an accent that was different than everybody else's, immediately it was like, oh, hold on, you're not one of us. Right, so it was like trying to get to know, like, where are you from, and then me trying to lose my accent so that I could fit in. And I'll never forget the day when I realized I should just stop trying to fit in and stop trying to lose my accent. I was listening to the way that people spoke, right, and I realized that Americans would not pronounce the T's. So if you said water, we say water in Trinidad, you say water here. People say daughter in Trinidad, you say daughter here.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, the T's, you don't say the T's, So one time I was talking about something and the word 13 came up, and I was going to say the word 13, and I was like, oh, drop the T. So I was like 13, and the kid looked at me and said, what? I said 13. He said, you mean 13? And I was like, so it was like this confusion as to, like, I'm trying so hard to drop my accent, to try to learn this new way of speaking, and I realized that I wasn't going to. I couldn't force myself to do that, and immediately I had to tell myself, stop pretending, right? In order to just kind of make the transition a little bit easier on myself.
That's big. Do you remember what age this was?
I was about 8 going on 9.
That's very aware.
Mm-hmm.
That's very aware, because other kids would have maybe just crumbled and realized that I'm never gonna fit in, and that becomes an issue they have to overcome. But you realize that I'm just gonna have to be my authentic self, and you made it happen.
Yep.
Wow. Your quick synopsis of high school, was it, I mean, because I'm sure you battled that afterwards. Did you find out after a while it accepted you for who you were when you became authentically you?
That didn't really happen until college, I think. I would say that, in high school, I went to a boarding school in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and this school was for kids who came from parents where it was like low economic standing, parents who were struggling, single parent families. So once you got into the school, they gave you a full ride. So you could literally walk into the school with the clothes on your back, and they'll outfit you with everything, full medical, dental, all that kind of stuff, health insurance, all that. So the mixture of students were students that also came from tough environments. So it was this kind of, oh, you are one of us in a sense, right? Because you're coming from someplace tough. So there were a lot of people who came from parents from the Caribbean, whether they were from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Trinidad, Jamaica, those kinds of backgrounds as well as Americans and people from like rural Pennsylvania and that kind of thing. So I could essentially be myself in that space as well, but not till college did I really start to get to be proud of being from the Caribbean, because interestingly enough, there were a group of Haitian students that were there that just kind of, oh, you Haitian? And immediately embraced me, even though I didn't speak Creole, right? So now that was their thing. Oh, you don't speak Creole? So they would speak Creole to me, to teach me and that kind of thing. But it made me feel like I had a community, and it made me feel like, wow, like it's the first time I can actually be proud about being from the Caribbean.
That's big, big. Let me ask you this. What were the grades like in high school?
Grades were great. I had great A's, B's, maybe C once in a blue moon, but I had, I probably graduated from high school with like a 3.5, maybe 3.4.
What about the girlies?
Yeah,
No, I don't know.
Well, in high school, it's like I say, because it's like this thing where you're trying to find yourself. So you are, speaking for myself, it was like I was focused on my academics, I was focused on my athletics, and at the same time, like I had girls that I was interested in, and there were times where it worked out and times where it didn't work out, but just finding myself in that sense. But also I realized that it was a lot of the guys were pretending. And going back to that whole thing about pretending again, it was like it was too much work. So many times,
SQR Podcast. Yeah, when you drop a jewel on the show, can we slow that down for the guys who are listening to this right now, my dude? Say that again.
Yeah, pretending was too much work. It was too much work. So I just, a lot of times I was just by myself.
Wow. Through that whole story, I heard nothing about art. I heard nothing about expressing yourself in artistically, because academically you were on point, you were into athletics. Where did the art come in?
Well, I made music. So I started to write rhymes when I was in high school, and there was we had 2 other guys in the group. And I also used to draw. When people had posters in their bedroom and put them up, I actually used to make drawings and put the drawings up in my room. So the art was there in that sense.
Do you remember the first rhyme you wrote?
No.
Or performed?
Nah, I don't remember it.
No, I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect that.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you now.
Yeah.
In college, got settled, got accepted by the Haitian population.
Yep.
What was your major?
I was a political science at first, because I wanted to go into law.
The ability for you to express yourself the way you are, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I wanted to be a lawyer. Growing up, everyone was saying, "Oh, your mother wants you to be a lawyer," and they would tell my brother, "Your mother wants you to be a doctor." So it starts to get ingrained in your psyche, like, "Oh, this is what I want to be." And then I started asking around, like, okay, when I'm about to go to college, what does one study if you want to go into law? So some people said, oh, history. And for me, I was like, history's too boring. It was like English. I was like, too much reading. And it was like political science. I was like, what's that? So like, yeah, it's this, politics, think about how the way government works and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, that sounds cool. I'll do that. I just declared that as a major.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, it wasn't me.
When did the art and the artistic expression come into play?
Summer of my sophomore year in college. Yeah.
Do you remember the catalyst?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was graduated in 4 years. So I had the undergraduate bulletin, and every class that I needed to take for my 4 years was outlined, like highlighted. And then I also highlighted what my elective options were, right? So I would go back to this book every time it came time to register for class. And I said, hey, this summer, if I'm going to take a class, I'm going to take 2 art classes so I can just chill. So I took a painting class and a drawing class with Anthony Triano, and that changed my life.
SQR Podcast called Rosenberg. We're going to take this break. We're going to come back.
Yeah.
We're going to big up Anthony.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick up from there
Yeah.
to what you're doing right now. And
Right
of
on.
course, Nyugen Smith is going to do a little piece for us that he cooked up exclusively for SQR Podcast. Stay tuned. My guest, Nyugen Smith. One.
Yeah. Peace.
Welcome to the place when you want a good time. Just for fun and the place when joke on your mind. And just for fun and we don't want to see it done. Just for fun, nothing to drop down. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Welcome to the place when you want.
SQR Podcast called Rosenberg, and it's been such a refreshing powwow with you, my friend, my brother.
Right on.
You know, thank you for that correction that I'm implementing immediately. And as we walk through your life, it's so authentically easy for me to relate because coming from the Caribbean, and you know, as I was talking to somebody in the Peanut Gallery, and she was sharing that it's so interesting that him being an American had to deal with the assimilation from coming from a Caribbean country back to America, and you know, be able to understand that. So
Yeah.
thank you for being so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so transparent. Picking up from where we left off, college,
Yeah.
had to take some electives.
Yep.
You took 2 art classes.
Yep.
The 2 art classes were,
Painting and sculpture.
and the art teacher who was a catalyst,
Yep.
his name.
Anthony Triano.
Tell me about the experience there.
Yeah. So the experience was the painting class began at like 8:30 in the morning. So imagine in the summertime, being a college student, you're hanging out late night. You know, this class is really early in the morning, but I still wanted to go to the class no matter how tired I was because of the way he was just talking about life. He would be walking through the class talking about life. He'll stop, talk to a student, give them some advice, would check some stuff out, and just keep talking about life. You know, so it was this wonderful learning experience, one learning about art, but also all these jewels. As you talk about jewels, he was dropping jewels every day, just like one after the other. And I just really wanted to be in that space to absorb and learn as much, you know.
Another jewel you're
Yeah.
dropping by me as you talk about jewels. But what I have to dissect from that conversation is this. College kid
Yeah.
with every distraction, susceptible to every distraction in the summer, wanting to be in this class,
Yeah.
to hear these jewels,
Yep.
and being around that environment because you knew it was going to be instrumental in moving you forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now the eyes are open. Why pursue that lane? Why not jump off of that like you did with political science?
Nah, because I got support. So as
Ooh,
I'm
what
making
a
the
jewel!
work, it's the support, man. And I tell you, I would come out of the classroom with a finished painting, and I'm walking down campus going from the class to my dorm room, and somebody might stop me. Oh, let me see that. Right? Show it to them. Oh, that's cool. It's cool. Administrators started buying my work. So as a college student, selling work for like $100 here, $50 here, you know, that made a huge difference. And it told me that this was possible, you know.
SQR Podcast, Will Rosenberg. I already told you about jewels, bro. You
Yeah.
just dropped off like a machine gun worth of jewels right there.
Yeah.
Because you're inspired by something.
Yeah.
You do something. You see the result.
Yep.
Now that you got a taste of this.
Yeah. Now I wanted to have my own show. I wanted to put on my own show because they didn't have exhibitions at that time for students. So I said, why not put together my own art exhibition? So I teamed up with the Black Student Union. A lot of my friends were in the Black Student Union, so they decided that they were gonna wear all black, and they were gonna help like just navigate everything. They would like welcome guests in. They would, if somebody was interested in buying something, they would either bring them to me or bring them to my mom or bring them to somebody else that was helping out. And then my mom, she made all these like patties and all kinds of stuff for the reception.
Everybody.
What? I made $1,000 that night.
Can
in
we
my
toast
own
to
show.
that?
And so imagine as a college student, it's like you have this vision of, okay, this is not being done. I want to do it. Let me do it. You get support from your friends on campus and your parent, and then you make money doing it. So like, what more
Confirmation?
Yeah. So
big up yourself,
that was
my
it,
yo.
man. That was it.
Wow.
Yep.
All the pieces created by you.
Yeah.
So now I can now imagine, now that you have a taste, you're now inspired to really take this to the next level.
Yeah.
And when we ask you your marquee or what you stand for, it's a complete melting pot of all the arts.
Yeah.
Where did the other arts come in? The other disciplines in that artistic thing come in?
Right on. I think it began where I started to feel as though, because I was trained in painting and drawing primarily, and I started to feel like there were other things that I was really trying to articulate through my art, and I felt like I needed to come outside of painting or sculpture or drawing in order to truly express it. It's like I look at art disciplines as different languages, and sometimes you need to dive into the patois, right, for people to really understand what you're trying to say, or switch the language or use another language in order for somebody to really understand what you're saying. And art is like that. So if I'm trying to say something, I might be able to better express it through a drawing, or I might be able to better fully articulate what I'm trying to say or what I'm feeling through performance, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I be very generic? I'm very impressed that because as a Caribbean man, quote unquote, in the US will be classified as African American man, the expression of feeling or thoughts are not really supported, especially artistically.
Yeah.
You know, we're providers. You know, we're the strong, you know, so if I come in and say I'm an artist, I'm going to express myself this way, kind of soft thing, you know what I mean? You know, people look at those things. However, I see a great evolution in your thought process, especially at such a young age. To embrace this talent, to tell your story through this medium, and now to be using various mediums. I salute you, my youth.
Yeah, give thanks. Give thanks.
Let's just, now that you've did your show, I know Mummy Happy in Jamaica, we call them Mama's Mummy. I know in Trinidad, money's being made. She see the talent. Your inspiration to get involved in some of these works. And you have these books here for a reason. So let's just touch on this, because from that, and let's just go back for a little. College, you finished up there. Did you get the opportunity to do more work in college, or?
So I also did theater in college. I was rapping in college. So I was really heavily involved in the arts. It was a way for me to continue to think and be. I realized that I was an artist at that time, and what really made me feel like I was an artist and made me say I am an artist is I took Professor Triano passed away 2 weeks after our class was done, and a new professor came in. And he saw the work that I was doing. He saw the potential, and he said, "You need to come with me to this class that I'm teaching in Italy." So I scrounged the money together. Administrators came and bought artwork so I could buy my plane ticket and all that. And I went there and I took a drawing and a painting class in Florence, Italy, and that changed my life and made me say to myself, like, I am an artist. When I came back from there, that's when I started to dive into this like full, wholeheartedly.
SQR Podcast, Corey Rosenberg. My dude, you've embraced being outside of your comfort zone. From a little boy, hugging onto Trinidad, writing it out, switching back to the US, embracing that. The college, the eye-opening experience of the art, going to Bring people up to speed on what's happening right now.
Yeah.
What's Nyugen Smith up to right now?
So right now, I got 3 catalogs on the table here, and one, they're all from the exhibitions that I'm currently participating in. There's a few more, but these are the 3 major ones that's going on right now. One is Relational Undercurrents, Art of the Caribbean Archipelago. And that features artists who are from the Caribbean, living in the Caribbean, or artists who are from the Caribbean, first generation, second generation, living in the diaspora. And this is a traveling exhibition. This other exhibition called The Sea is History. This one is at the Museum of Cultural History in Oslo, Norway. And this features many prominent artists from the Black diaspora. And this one is The Other Side of Now, Foresight in Contemporary Caribbean Art. And this is at the Perez Museum, Miami at this moment. And it features a lot of the top artists living in the Caribbean or outside of the Caribbean working today in contemporary art.
Big up yourself.
Give thanks, huh?
Yeah, big up yourself.
Yeah.
You've represented us well. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
Because if you look back to, the influential artists from our genre, and when I say our genre, we're talking about the Caribbean. We're talking about the African Caribbean, influenced artists.
Yeah.
You're just at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
No, that's big, and
Yeah.
I'm flattered by your modesty. As we get ready to wrap on this, and I already see that you're going to be another guest on the show because we want to be able to dissect specific works.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to find out the inspiration behind that work and that work. And it'd be too long for us to do it in just one sitting.
Yeah.
So I hope you take my invitation to come back and
Absolutely.
splice this up.
Yeah.
But as I get ready to close, there's a question I pose to all my guests.
Yeah.
And is, you have the magic wand.
Yeah.
I gave it to you. You have 2 wishes. What's your first wish?
First wish, equal rights and justice for everybody. First and foremost.
Second wish.
Second wish, wow.
I like that.
Second wish, for those who are struggling to find themselves and to find that thing in life that makes you want to get up every day, my wish for them is that they find that thing, because there's nothing like it.
SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, my boy Nyugen Smith. Thank you for that checkpoint. You see, I'm so on point now because you planted that seed. My brother,
No doubt.
my man,
No doubt.
Nyugen Smith.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for taking my invite. Thank you for coming and being so vulnerable. Thank you for educating me and how I should reference my future brothers and my future guests and my future fellow men and women as they come on the show. I will make that a significant difference, and you're the catalyst for that. Thank you for dropping the jewels you did.
No doubt.
And as we get ready to close, could you let people know where they could find you, how they could get in touch with you,
Yeah.
and linked up to get you to either do a drawing for them, a painting for them,
Yeah.
a representation of art for them.
doubt.
Go.
No doubt. Check me out. My website is NyugenSmith.com, NYUGEN Smith.com, and also at Bundle House, BUNDLEHOUSE on Instagram. And if you're in the Miami area, you could check out The Other Side of Now, Foresight in Contemporary Caribbean Art at the Perez Art Museum, Miami.
SQR Podcast, Cole Rosenberg, Nyugen Smith. Enough said. 1.
I'm Nyugen Smith here on SQR Podcast, and I'm about to drop a little something for you right now. It's called A Letter Home, Hoping to Reach You Soon, an original poem in thinking about my disconnection from my Haitian ancestry. I don't remember knowing you. I am only familiar with your name, your complex jargon, lexicon plus argent strides of your offspring. I am familiar, but with a few flavors on your table. Cloth that carries the scent of starchy roots drawn from earth, rice of my complexion, sauces of fish and meat, coffee grounds and sweet, breads that hold a warm place in hearts across your land, where rivers holding secrets from east whisper tales while you somber sleep. I might add, I am new to this feeling. Father, land, hand, my time left here to greet you is sinking sand, and I know you await me. Open gates bearing symbols, signals, symbols may clash and awake me. The reminder that I am here, still. Father, land, I see your hand in all that I do, all that I make. Your son is afraid. All that chalk and mud, blood and raw materials, brass arrows with dots and crossed ethereals. Your son is afraid. This you already know. I'm from that other line, support staff, crafting and making, cooking and baking, sharpening and shaping all that you'd be proud to use to be putting up the resistance. To include an inside reference is outside me. No parallels can be drawn from the inside here. Always open I am to the possibility that sometimes someone there thinks of me. Knowing that I am growing and time does pass through glass and empties on the other side, my side, for yours is forever full, holding seed and soil, waiting for rain. Mine eyes have seen the power and the glory of He. His goodness and mercy has dutifully strengthened me. Yet I still fail. Fail to follow the lead, fail to sacrifice yet and still, fail to remove myself from the borders of the north and south side of the picket fence. I think it's something about the aerial view. I straddle each panel, balancing, hoping to make a breakthrough. And oh, once in a blue I do. It is at that time that I wind up floating, empowered by thee. And with a wisp I begin smashing and thrashing obstacles constructed by wicked withered hands, striding through oil-filled sinking sands, cultivating green fields and watering holes in barren lands. Heaven is here. Then communication breaks down, communication breaks down, communication breaks down, 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 down. And I crash como un Led Zeppelin. When the dust settles, I'm left straddling again. The fence pierces the arch of 1 foot, causing an intense pain. But still I balance. The talons of an eagle finds me, and into the wind we go. The pressure burns mine eyes, causing sodium chloride flavored H2O to flow. And the tongues of the beings below lapse a taste. Some foam from the snout, some spit to rinse it out, while others sit patiently waiting, patiently breathing deeply.
To escape it all, I'm given a vision of where I fall, and the beasts and fire consume me. I've got to get to the other side, 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 side.
Welcome to the place when you want a good time. Just for fun and the place when joke on your mind. And just for fun and we don't want to see it done. Just for fun, laugh till you drop down. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.